All right, today we're going to dig deep, and I mean that literally. We're about to unpack the official rulebook, the master plan, that governs all of India's underground wealth. We're talking from coal to gold, and it all comes down to one foundational law, the Mines and Minerals Act of 1957.
So, think about it. How does a nation manage these incredible treasures hidden right beneath its soil? I mean, you can't just have a free-for-all where anyone can start digging, right? You absolutely need a system, a solid framework that's fair, that's productive, and most importantly, that serves the public good.
And the answer? Well, it lies right here in this incredibly powerful declaration from the Act itself. This is the heart of it, the core principle. The Union, the central government, takes control. Why? To make sure that all this mineral wealth is developed for the public good, not just for private profit. It's a huge statement.
So here's our game plan. We'll start with the Mineral Master Plan, then the path to mining, followed by the rules of the game. After that, we'll follow the money and wrap up with policing the mines. Let's get into it.
All right, first up, India's Mineral Master Plan. Let's dig into the big why. Why does this rulebook even exist in the first place? Okay, so once we know why it exists, the next logical question is how. That brings us to Section 2, the path to mining. How does someone actually go from spotting a potential resource to pulling it out of the ground? Well, the Act lays out a very clear path, from prospect all the way to production.
Now, this whole path revolves around getting specific permissions from the government. They're officially called mineral concessions. It all starts with Step 1, prospecting, which is basically the big search. Once you find something, you move to Step 2, getting a mining lease, which gives you the right to actually extract it. And, there's even a newer, more streamlined option that bundles them together called a composite license.
So what exactly is prospecting? The best way to think about it is like scientific detective work. You can't just start digging. You have to do the legwork, the exploration, to prove that valuable minerals are actually there. It's that crucial first step, confirming the treasure is real.
Okay, so you've done your prospecting, you've confirmed there's something valuable. Now what? You need a mining lease. This is basically like a long-term rental agreement with the government. It's the official document that gives you the exclusive right to go in and mine those minerals, or as the Act says, to win them from the earth.
And then we have that more modern approach I mentioned, the composite license. This was a really smart innovation, actually. It combines the search, the prospecting, and the extraction, the mining, into a single, seamless, two-for-one deal. The whole idea is to speed up the process and get things moving. Okay, so we know the steps, but what about the actual rules? That brings us to our next section, which gets into the real nitty-gritty. We're talking who can even get one of these licenses, where can they operate, and for how long? Let's dive in.
First things first, who's even eligible to get in the game? Section 5 of the Act is super clear on this. You either have to be an Indian national or a company that's registered right here in India. It's a really foundational rule, right? The idea is to keep the development of the nation's resources in the nation's hands.
Okay, so how long do you get to keep these leases? Well, it depends on what you're mining. For coal and lignite, the initial grant is for 30 years, and then you can renew it for another 20. But here's the big change. For most other minerals, thanks to a major amendment in 2015, it's now a single, long-term period of 50 years. And when those 50 years are up, the lease is done, and the mine goes back up for auction.
The Act is also really smart about preventing any one company from becoming too dominant. It does this by putting a cap on how much land a single person or company can control in any one state. For prospecting, the limit is 25 square kilometers, but for actual mining leases, it's a bit stricter at 10 square kilometers. The whole point is to make sure the playing field stays competitive and isn't just owned by one or two giants.
Now, of course, this whole process isn't just about digging stuff out of the ground. It's about generating real value for the country. And that brings us to a crucial part, following the money. How does the law make sure that the wealth from all this mining actually benefits the public? Let's find out. So, mining companies basically have to pay the state in two main ways. First, there's the royalty. That's a cut, a percentage, of the value of whatever minerals they pull out. Then there's something called dead rent, which is just a fixed annual fee for the land, whether they're mining or not. But here's the really clever part. The law says they have to pay whichever of those two amounts is greater in any given year. It's a brilliant way to guarantee the state always gets an income, even if a mine isn't actively producing.
But okay, where does all that money actually go? Well, this is where a part of the Act, Section 9B, did something truly game-changing.
It created something called the District Mineral Foundation, or DMF. Think of it as a nonprofit trust set up in every single district where mining happens. And who funds it? The mining companies themselves. It's a mandatory contribution. This is huge because it ensures a chunk of the wealth from the mines gets funneled directly back to the people and areas most affected by the mining.
And that's not all. There's one more payment. On top of the royalties and the DMF contributions, miners also have to pay an extra 2% of their royalty into a national fund. This one's called the National Mineral Exploration Trust, or MET.
So let's just step back and connect all those dots. What this whole financial system does is create this amazing virtuous cycle. Think about it. Mining today pays for local community development through the DMF, and it pays for finding the minerals of tomorrow through the NMET. It's a really well-thought-out system that's designed to benefit both the present and the future.
Okay, so having all these rules is great, but rules are only as good as their enforcement, right? That brings us to our final section, policing the mines. This is where we see the stick that comes with the carrot. The act gives the government some serious power to make sure everyone is playing by the book.
And when I say serious power, I mean it. Authorized officials can literally walk onto any mine and inspect it. They can seize minerals that were mined illegally. They can even take the tools, the big equipment, the trucks, anything used in that illegal operation. They have the full authority to shut these things down, period.
And if you want to know how serious they are, just look at the penalty for the most basic crime, mining without a license. We're talking up to 5 years in prison and a fine of up to 5 lakh rupees for every single hectare of land you mined illegally. The message could not be clearer. Don't even think about it.
So there you have it. We've just unpacked a law that was written way back in 1957, but it's still the absolute bedrock of India's mineral policy today. But that leaves us with one last big question. You know, as our world changes, as technology demands this whole new shopping list of critical minerals for everything from our phones to our cars, how is this old foundational act going to adapt? How will it govern the resources of the future? That's a huge question that India is facing right now.